Hey everyone, this is Alex with NWEA, and today we're going to discuss updates to student groups for the NSCAS Growth Spring 21-22 administration. We've heard your feedback from winter and we've made improvements to how groups and classes are created in the NSCAS Growth system and want to go over this today. So to start, we want to talk about how groups were being handled for the winter pilot. So essentially back in the winter pilot, the NSCAS growth platform was using class information from Advisor to create student groups automatically. Through feedback and throughout winter, we have learned that the classes set up in Advisor are not necessarily the groupings that district need or use. And also we know that school districts are looking for a process that allows them to use their resources more efficiently. Moving forward into the current spring administration, classes in MAP Growth are going to be synced nightly to the NSCAS Growth platform as groups. This process has already started as of Monday, March the 14th, and is continuing to sync every night. So for those of you who are using auto-rostering solutions such as Clever or who are already testing in MAP Growth this spring, the classes you've created in MAP Growth will automatically transfer over as student groups. And these student groups are going to be available as both testing and reporting groups. So they can be used by proctors for testing, as well as used for viewing reports. Instructors assigned to the groups will retain these associations in the NSCAS growth as well. So users who are set up as teachers or who have access to those classes in MAP growth will retain that access in the NSCAS growth system. We do have kind of a graphic here that we want to go over to help explain the syncing process and where the data sources are coming from. So essentially in this image on the right, the black dotted line represents student information. For NSCAS growth, districts update their local student information system and sync this with NDE's advisor system. We then get a state level roster from advisor that is imported into the NSCAS growth system twice weekly to populate student information. So this is how student profiles are created for NSCAS growth. These student profiles themselves are not copied over from MAP growth. Then looking at the red dotted line, this represents class information. It currently comes from districts directly to CAP for MAP growth and also through auto roster services like Clever into the CAP system for MAP growth. The change we've implemented takes the class data already being provided to MAP growth and syncs these classes to NSCAS growth as student groups, usable for both testing and reporting on a nightly basis. Also, in addition, same as with the winter pilot, user information is also pulled from CAP. So you can continue to use the same login, credentials, username, and password, and those users will continue to be managed through CAP. We also want everyone to keep in mind that the class information is going to be pulling from CAP's spring 21-22 term. So any rostering needs to be done to the spring term. So there's several benefits to this solution. So essentially, school districts will continue to provide student class and grouping data to NWEA using their current workflows for CAP. So as we mentioned, those of you who are already using auto roster services won't need to do anything different. Those of you who are already going to be testing in MAP growth for spring don't need to do anything different. Those of you who do not already plan to have spring testing for MAP growth and do want to make use of these groups, you can go in and using the same processes that you would have done in the past, import your roster for MAP growth, and then that will automatically create the classes that will get synced over to the NSCAS growth system. Another big benefit of this is that these class groupings are going to be consistent between NSCAS growth and MAP growth. As mentioned, school districts using Clever are going to continue just to do the same process they always have done. And then data is going to automatically be loaded nightly without any school district intervention. So there's nothing that districts need to do to have these classes sync. Another great feature here is that proctors can also access these class groupings as testing groups. So similar to Test My Class and MAP Growth, those classes are already going to be in the system available for testing. There's a few things that we do want to note. So as I mentioned before, only classes are being synced, not student profiles. So students are still going to be coming from Advisor and not directly from CAP. So as always, please make sure any updates to students are made in your local student information system and then synced over to Advisor. Even though we're making all of these changes to try to make groups more convenient and more representative of the classes and the way that you want to see reports and test your students, they're actually still not required for testing. So as long as proctors can locate their students in that manage online testing screen and print and access the test tickets, students can still just use the ticket to log in and take the test. They don't need to be placed into any particular group. They'll still be able to test. Once again, for the roster information being pulled from map growth for these classes, it's only going to be pulling the spring 21-22 term. So just make sure that any rostering that's done is done for that spring term. And then another thing worth mentioning is that students can be in multiple groups, similar to how they can be in multiple classes in map growth. So we've added some more flexibility so students can be in multiple groups to represent the same way that classes have been set up. Something else that we do want to mention, particularly for this week, is that there is a current issue where if students have been removed from a class and moved to another class, you may still see them in both classes. And this is actually something we're in the process of fixing, and we plan for it to be resolved before testing begins on March 21st. There are a couple of resources and information available too. So we know that the majority of Nebraska districts have already been using map growth and already know the process. But if you do need any help on how to import a map growth roster to get these classes and groups created, then within map growth, there's that help section at the top right corner. You can always just click help from any page you're on. And then if you see the screenshot on the right, once you're in the help section, you can click on map setup along the top and then students and staff roster. There are also links available here in the slide deck to take you directly to that page. This actually has some brief how-to videos that will walk you through the process of creating the roster, how to import it, and how to get those classes populated into map growth. All right, so that kind of concludes the discussion today on how classes are going to be synced from map growth over to NSCAS growth. We hope to continue to hear feedback from you. We're hoping this is a better solution that will give you access to student data and access to the students that you need based on the classes that have been set up.